Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit. So feel free to hit those buttons, feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like. The purpose of this channel is educational in regards to both atheist and deconversion issues and Bible and theology in relationship to atheist and deconversion issues, particularly in regards to Christianity. But, all religions have their deconversion issues, so I'm welcome to discuss about those as well. Today's a Friday video, and so I'm dealing with questions today and comments, and really only had 2 on the actual channel this week. I do have another one, but I think I'm going to deal with that one actually on Monday. It's a full-fledged, it's a comment worthy of a lot of its own discussion on our current discussion on this channel of, does religion do any good? I want to get to that in a bit. But the most frequently asked question this week from a lot of commenters and different sources, medias, friends, outlets, is how's my wife doing? My wife is doing very well. She had her doctor's appointment Wednesday, and now she's been back to work for a couple days. She's still on weight restrictions because of the nature of the surgery, but should be pretty much back to normal, hopefully. She's feeling much better and much better spirits since doing this, so quality of life definitely improved, but she's doing very well. Some of the other commenters on the channel this week, going back to a few days ago on my thoughts on the supposed benefits of religion, last week's Friday video. If something is really true, why do we have hundreds of debates? Surely it would not need so much persecution. It's crazy when you really think, as far as finding faith again, how can that happen once you realize all the terrible stuff in this Bible is ordered by the Creator? We would not follow man that orders stoning people or drowning families, cutting parts off children, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice. So how can someone want not just follow, but worship? It's very immoral. Yeah, it is a good question. My thing with people in the Bible is this, and it's been my experience in dealing with various people inside the church over the years as a pastor. One of the things I have to give kudos to in some respects is the way religion has very successfully gotten people to ignore the bad parts of the Bible or the bad parts of their holy books. It's interesting that religions, as a general rule, if they have holy books associated with it, they focus on the things that in the society are more acceptable. But a lot of Christians and a lot of believers simply don't know their Bible all that well. I found in my debates when I was a Christian with atheists knew the Bible as well as I did. I would often bring up details that they would miss, and that often created some other issues at times. But most of the time, what you ended up having was the fact that most Christians focus on the parts of the Bible that inspire them or make them feel better or whatever, and they completely ignore other passages. Now, that's okay if you don't really have a hard, infallible, Bible's inspired by God form of view. If you look at the Bible simply as a guidebook created by men to the religion known as Christianity or whatever, then it's not as bad. But if you're a fundamentalist, you have to deal with the fact that your God that is so good and loving is portrayed in his own holy book as, quite frankly, somebody who likes a lot of death and likes to kill people simply because they disagree with him. I don't know. It's a very might makes right view of God. And so a lot of people, because they believe in God and they believe he's more powerful than they are, they just go along with it. So it's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. People have a lot of debates about this stuff, and it just doesn't really answer the question. So I agree with you, but I do understand why people hold to it And it's because they can blissfully ignore large passages of Scripture that contradict what they really think about God. It's why I say everybody has their own image of God that they have created in their head. And any verse of Scripture that lines up with that, great. Ones that kind of call that into question, we'll just interpret it a different way and make it do something different. 3 days ago, from Rabyd Ramblings, does religion generate empathy? Well, listening to this, I thought about all those witches burnt, drowned, murdered, beaten into helpless confession. Think about it. This really happened. We can still see the tools used to give pain in museums. The truth is and was, not one of those people was a witch, not one. No empathy there. It was taken away by the words, suffer not a witch to live. So today, the dangerous belief that people are being led about satanic forces still exists. Anyway, just a thought. Good video, interesting to think about empathy. And both of those comments were from Freebird of Reason, who is quite frankly my most active commenter. But he always has some thought, and I always appreciate them. But this one's an interesting one because it leads into this discussion of religion. Does religion do any good? Does religion generate empathy? I don't know. If it feeds, a lot of thought is that it's no better or worse than some of the other tribalistic forces, which kind of leads me closer to what I'm going to do on Monday. But the problem with it is a lot of that was based on belief in supernatural stuff that doesn't necessarily deal with things that are in reality. What did we really see with the witches and the Salem witch trials and all that? When you really look at them, and I've read a little bit about them, I'm no expert, or sure if somebody else knows a little bit more, they could most certainly chime in. But my cursory examination was the women that were burned as witches, when you really looked at what they did, I have a strong suspicion that they were just not people that lined up with the status quo and with authority. I was reading the other day, somebody asked, in America, has Christmas ever been banned? And the truth is, I do know of one instance where it was banned back in the 1600s in the Americas by the Puritans. The Puritans disliked the pagan origins of Christmas, and they disliked the revelry and the fun of it, and they got rid of it, being serious Calvinists that they were. So in that context, it's interesting that some religious groups go to a great deal of trouble to believe imaginary things about people in order to get rid of those people out of their society that are kind of making their perfect society less than perfect. And this is probably the real danger of religion, is this idea of conformity or else. I'm not saying that politics doesn't do that too. It does. That's why I tell people the two most dangerous forces in the world are religion and politics. It's also interesting that these are the things we're not supposed to discuss in polite society, and yet these are the two that probably have more effect on us than anything, and a good chunk of it is negative. So my interest in these things, particularly with, does religion generate empathy, is that one thing you can say for sure about religion is if you are on the out group, it has a way of reinforcing this not looking at the other person as a human being because they don't hold the same faith, to the point that you'll kill people over it. Can politics do that? Can political ideology do that? Yeah. Can economic ideology do that? Well, yeah, I would say the cold and not so cold parts of the war between, the communists of the Soviet Union and the democracies of the West. Yeah, you definitely can see that, especially when you throw, some fascism in there, here and there in various places. And certainly political and economic ideology have certainly drove people apart, but religion will do it over imaginary characters and imaginary ideas, things that don't really exist. When communists and capitalists are fighting each other, those are real economic systems that have real economic, you can examine them using economic law, and you can use them, you can examine them rationally and take a look at them. When you see people fighting over like fascism versus democracy, control and manipulation by a small group or oligarchy versus, or an individual leader versus democratic action. Certainly, those things can be analyzed. Governments can be analyzed. The difference when religion rears its ugly head to remove empathy, it's over imaginary characters in mythology that don't actually exist. That we can literally cause people to hate each other and not see each other as human over something that is completely imaginary. It's as bad as, say, the Lord of the Rings and the Harry Potter people going at each other about, would we really think too much of those two fandoms if they started killing each other over which, well, your imaginary world doesn't exist and ours does. And that's really what a lot of religious wars have boiled down to. When you really look at it, it's quite ridiculous. And when you realize the depth of ridiculousness of it, the fact that people kill each other over it, to me, pushes the scale heavy on the evil and bad end for religion. Because it's not like, when I see people fight each other over economic and political ideology, I can at least say they're passionate about something that exists and they're fighting for it. When I see people killing each other over religion, it's stupid. Okay. And because it's stupid, it's, in my mind, a little bit more evil, because it's one thing to be an informed, say, capitalist or an informed socialist and go at it over your being informed. It's quite another to go at it over the fact that you answered the wrong question to the God question. Okay. Do you believe in God? No. Dead. Do you believe in God? Yeah, I do believe in God. Do you believe in my God? No. Dead. Okay. See, this is when you start introducing belief and faith into the mix. To me, you're hitting the nail on the head with using something like the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials were all about imaginary powers that these women were supposedly had. And because of that, people in authority were allowed to remove those women from society. And usually these were women that lived on their own and wanted to be alone. They didn't want to get married, or they did something weird and it came to pass, and they didn't give glory to God or something stupid. And that's the kind of irrationality that you can get with religion. This is why I say religion is not a good thing. I would say that the scale is heavily, even if some good comes out of religion, which I question whether that's whether it's particularly the product of religion. This is still the base issue of the question. Is it because of the religious belief, faith, that these good things can be done? Or are these people just being empathic because they're human beings and the religion really didn't have much to do with it? It's like I've said before, name me any good thing that a religious person does that could not be done by somebody who is not religious. By the same token, I can count 100 million times evil things that are done in the name of religion. It's a long list. I literally can go to any part of history, show you women being repressed, people being killed, people being raped, people being stolen from, having their property and lives ruined, burned, destroyed in the name of religion all over every year of history. I can do it right up to the modern day. Whereas I can see good things being done by a lot of people. And, I do believe actually that things are getting better all the time. And in large part, I think it's because of human beings, addressing their problems in more rational ways and doing things that actually work instead of imaginary things like prayer and other things. So when you get down to the basics of the question, when I look at the good or evil versus religion, and there's, precious little good, in my opinion, that comes directly out of the religion and belief system. it's usually done for some other reason or empathy. And the fact that religion often causes the problems that it eventually has to try to cure, that it's a religious belief didn't exist. I mean, how many people in Africa have died of AIDS because the Pope told their Catholicness is that you're not allowed to use birth control, including, condoms. All of that could have been avoided. That's a great evil to me. But that's sacred. These sacredness beliefs, these sacred cows, I think are cause of more belief. I would say that's true in politics too. I can analyze a lot of things very rationally, and very few people make decisions on rationality. And that's the problem. When we're in a more rational state of mind, we make better decisions. But, I see where you're going, Freebird. I could do this all day. I could do this all day with pointing out in history where religion does much, much more harm than good, and in their good intentions. I mean, if there's two great rules, I take this from the Wizard's Rules, from the Sword of Truth series. I think the author of that series hit it on the head, because the Wizard's first rule is people are stupid. I try to back that down with, people are naive, but no, people believe what they want to believe because they want to believe it. Okay. And that's the most dangerous force in the world. And the second one is like unto it. The best intentions often cause the greatest amount of harm. And I think with religion, you get a double whammy of both. I think people have good intentions, and they may be good people, but they're doing evil things because of their good intentions. And then you have other, because they irrationally believe something because they want to believe it, they do other evil things in the name of that. They act in fear and stupidity. I mean, just look at the religious right in the United States right now because of Trump's loss. Oh, my God. They're going ballistic. They're going nuts. And it's like, oh, this is the end of democracy and the end of this. And I'm like, dude, no. What really will be the end is when people decide that safety is more important than liberty. And when that happens, when the vast majority of Americans, then the jig is up. And then you'll really start to see things go downhill, because everything good in life has come from having some measure of freedom to do what you need to do. So, but those are the two comments that I got on the YouTube channel. I did get one rather lengthy comment from my eldest, but I think it's such a comment, I'm going to think on it, and I'm going to do a little bit of research and reading on it too. And it will be the subject of Rabyd Ramblings, kind of continuing that discussion on Monday, just to let everybody did receive a comment about a book that I should get. And here it is. It arrived yesterday, and I think I'm going to start giving it a look as soon as I can. It'll be good reading at work or something, but I'm not sure. Or at home when I'm having one of my more reading moments, but we'll see what happens. But that's it for this week, other than to say thank you for everybody for your thoughts and well wishes for my wife and for me. I'm going to continue to do what I do and continue to advocate for what I advocate for, because I think we'd all be a little bit better if we were a little less religious and a lot more secular. In a lot of respects, we need to get over the fairy tales of our youth and move on to being adults as a society. And being an adult means you put away childish things. It's one of the few Bible verses that I agree with. The problem is I don't think Paul put away childish things, because one of the childish things is believing in fantasy figures that'll come along and rescue you out of your troubles that don't exist. And it's on that note that hopefully that someday I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Ed Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.